There it is, ladies and gents. Bitcoin has conclusively pushed above this $68,000 price range now. In fact, we're a little bit above 69K as we record, and we set a high at 69.5. So there's a lot to go through in this video, and I think that those all-time highs could be right around the corner. It is so beautiful to watch Bitcoin following in these footsteps here, and I want to break down what we've seen so we can assess if this is actually going to stick around. And I think the first thing that I've unfortunately got to touch on is the fact that this all happened on a weekend. We were speculating about this. Those of you that are smashing that subscribe button, making sure you're hitting those likes on these videos, you're going to remember that I was saying on a weekend, you know, Bitcoin can do some nasty shit sometimes, and you know, it can just kind of do its own thing. And it's not, you know, it's not the best thing in the world, in my opinion, if Bitcoin does move up on a weekend, because, you know, if traditional finance is kind of lagging behind, it just opens up uncertainties. You know, you do indeed get kind of Monday retracements, right, where you kind of lose your weekend's gains. So that's something I'm going to be aware of here, and I'm just going to kind of be keeping an open eye, you know, when that New York Open hits, just in case Bitcoin does, you know, kind of start to show some signs of reversal. But for now, we are finding resistance kind of exactly where we expected, and this sort of kind of, you know, interim resistance level that we've been discussing on this YouTube channel, is kind of, you know, mid-range resistance level here. We did top out here previously. We did get some small and, well, actually no real support hits, some very, very small support hits and some small rejections, but nothing too crazy off this price level. I don't really think this price level is going to be a problem, but there's a bigger thing that Bitcoin has done here, which I think most people aren't even thinking about, and it is that, you know, now that we've kind of conclusively, you know, really known that this is quite a, you know, quite a significant price zone for the market. Now that we've actually been able to get above it, you know, not only on the way up have we kind of back tested it and found a little bit of support where we were previously finding resistance, but we've now kind of matured above this price level a little bit, right? I mean, you know, since we got the breakout above 68, we've now spent 5 days and we've managed to rise up by, you know, I mean, depending on how you draw this, 3%, 5%, whatever, but a pretty decent margin, right? And so what this means to me now is that if Bitcoin does come back down, it's just going to have even more support down here. This has actually been one of the main things we've been talking about on this YouTube channel over the last few days, but I think this is even more noticeable and clear at this point now, where, you know, kind of the more you mature above a price level, the more likely you are, in my experience, to kind of find support down there if you do come down. So I think that this is actually looking really strong for Bitcoin from that perspective. We've got a very good level of support below us at about 67, 68, a very well-tested range, which we haven't tested recently as well, which I think is really good, other than the super tiny attempt here. And so I really think that Bitcoin, if it does kind of start to turn around, is going to have a good shot here. And, you know, I can back that up with a few more things. I mean, you know, our indicators have really had some time to mature now as well, and our 4-hour Ichimoku cloud now finally lines up with this beautiful range here. So if Bitcoin does kind of slowly trend down here toward the very end of this month, very beginning of next, there is going to be some really nice green support waiting for Bitcoin down at this particular price level, but it gets better than that. I mean, if we look at this from momentum, we've got a ton of momentum literally stretching from basically where we are now, a little bit lower, about a grand lower, stretching from 68.1 all the way down to kind of 66.5. So really nice to see a ton of support here on the 4-hour time frame. On the hourly, we've still got EMA support. It's a little bit of a small time frame for the EMAs, but Ichimoku cloud looking pretty sweet as well. We are starting to close up on the hourly, and this is really interesting. This is basically a display of momentum being lost, right? I mean, originally you can see just how strong we were when we moving up, but now we've kind of started to slow down. I'm not concerned about this. This is a reversal sign, and, you know, accordingly, this indicator, which can literally see the future, you know, well, not literally, but it kind of draws things in the future, you know, it's starting to show us the same thing, right? That we're kind of starting to lose a little bit of that strength. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this, but this is super short term, right? You go a little bit longer term, and it's just so strong, and I think that's what's more important. It's always going to be the long-term trend which takes precedent, but we look at the short-term trend a little bit, you know, to kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at here. And I think this is really important because there are a lot of kind of, you know, people talking about, you know, we've got an overall, you know, relatively bearish structure, you know, where we're kind of trending down or whatever. But then, you know, we've also got this, you know, more internal bullish structure, which a lot of people have kind of, you know, higher lows and higher highs. A lot of people have been talking about this. You know, I kind of spoke about this head on in one of our recent live streams. And again, I want to give a huge shout out to any of you who have been kind of subscribed and, you know, hitting the likes, because this is super time sensitive content and you are getting it around the clock when you show YouTube that you love this stuff. So that's really, really good stuff. And what we were talking about in that live stream, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was in the live stream, is that this kind of internal market structure, maybe it was in a normal video, this kind of internal market structure, eventually it becomes a little bit more external, which is another way of saying that eventually your short-term trend becomes more of your mid-term trend, which, eventually, given enough time, will become more of your long-term trend. So it's very important to ground yourself with the long-term trend so that you don't kind of lose perspective of things. But, those kind of, long-term trend players, they're never really gonna, recognize when a certain trend is over and a new trend is beginning, because they don't pay attention to stuff like this. They'll see stuff like this, and just like many people right now, they're just going to brush it off and be like, yeah, but this is internal structure. The real structure is still, this whole, thing that everybody and their nan's been looking at. And I think this is really important, because to me, this is not internal structure anymore. To me, this is structure that is breaking out, and actually this looks almost a little bit more like some sort of weird, distorted inverse head and shoulders before the price really kind of picks up. So that's how I feel about this, at least. And I don't know what that's worth. I've only been doing this for 7 years, but to me, it just feels a little bit more. I mean, I could be wrong. I've been wrong so many times before. I'm going to be wrong again in the future. But to me, it's just looking like this kind of internal structure is taking precedent now. We've really smashed that high. We've really been very clearly setting higher lows as well. It's like I said, we can come down to even here at 61K, and it's just still so bullish in my opinion that, I don't know, I can't be upset about this market no matter what we do here. I still think we're kind of headed to the top. We'll have to see. We got that kind of next break above our high, and then we're still moving quite timidly, right? I think this is, a real characteristic of this trend. Each of our legs up have been relatively small, since we kind of hit this price range. This one was the biggest. It was 3.5K. And then from low to high, we went up by 2.3K, and today it's 1.5, right? So, it's not looking amazing. We are definitely kind of showing a little bit more weakness than I would like to see in this particular price range. But, end of the day, man, if we're still trending up, I don't know. I just can't really be upset about what I'm seeing here. So I think that's cool. We're going to come back to that in just a second. I also want to talk to you a little bit about traditional finance, because I think this is a really big part of, obviously, Bitcoin's performance. We looked at this in a recent video, and it's consolidating at all-time highs right now, the S&P 500. So I think that's pretty sweet. I think that's a really good position for the S&P 500. The dollar is also pretty high, and it's already started to kind of pull back a little bit. So if this pullback turns out to be a shallow one, and we kind of hit this zone of resistance next, then that's really where I expect a reversal. And the dollar has been moving pretty much in just one direction non-stop now for this is 17 days, and it's up by 3.7%. It's a lot, right? Sometimes when it moves, it just moves and moves and moves, and it doesn't stop. So that's really important, right? Take a look at this example here on a slightly larger time frame, but this is more or less 250 days of up with little breaks of like 1 or 2 weeks trending down, right? So really quite impressive, consistent trending for the dollar here. But this environment that the dollar is in today, this is much more of a kind of, we can go ahead and copy paste this box, and you know what I mean? Like, this is kind of more of a kind of sideways range the way I'm seeing it. So resistance up top over here is kind of where I'm going to be expecting something, something for the dollar, whether it's a small pullback, a shallow pullback, or a much deeper one. I don't really know. It's more of a political discussion, but it's looking good, right? In other words, it's looking when the dollar looks like it's going to kind of dip, that's exactly when, traditional finance investors would be expecting, the S&P 500 to move up. And as an extension, if, traditional finance is looking pretty happy, then I certainly expect that Bitcoin would be as well. So from a slightly more kind of macro stage, and this is the thing, is like these kind of things that we're talking about on this YouTube channel, they're very legitimate, they're very accurate, they're very important, but they sometimes take a little bit of time to mature, which for you and me is fine, right? Like if you and I are here and we've got, a little bit of money, we take our money seriously, we've got some serious cash invested in these markets, and, we genuinely want to make some money. We're not just here for like a 4 or 5 month thing. Like, we actually have a financial time horizon beyond like 2 or 3 fucking years. Like, we're being adults about this instead of gambling degenerates in a crypto fucking casino. As long as you and I are on that page, then actually we're going to be completely okay with these things, because these more macro things, if we can kind of see them coming, from weeks or months ahead, that puts us in a really strong position to prepare ourselves. And we can prepare ourselves in a few different ways, right? It's not just, preparing yourself in terms of your capital and having money kind of on the side for when the dollar, starts dropping so you can buy some things, or rather buying when the dollar is going up, when things are cheap. It's not that, because that's a very like layer one level of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is deeper than that. I'm talking about the kind of shit that you only learn when you've been doing this for 7 years, like your psychological capital. They're really, really important. Nobody talks about this. Nobody even knows what I'm talking about. But psychological capital is probably the most expensive form of capital that you ever raise when you're trading. And most people don't even raise it ever, and if they do, they don't keep it for long. But it's also, I think, the capital which you can deploy, which will make you the most money capital, the capital that we all think about. When your psychological capital is strong, when you've got a lot of it, you're good. You can make good decisions. You can stand by your decisions. You can stick by them when the market is kind of trending against your trade a little bit. You have conviction, because you got good psychological capital. If you don't have it, if you've been grinding it down, if you've been fucking yourself, if you've been revenge trading and just doing anything that kind of sends you in a negative spiral, then you're not going to have very much of that psychological capital. And the cost of that, the opportunity cost of not having it, the cost of not having it, is that you won't take opportunities which are good, because you just be too scared. Your brain will be fried, and that's exactly why things like being able to see these potential pivot points for traditional finance and how they might affect Bitcoin. That's why this stuff is really important, because it allows you to build that capital. Because you're going to be right as well, right? I mean, what we're talking about is so logical. It's so easy to follow. You just have to listen, and it will make sense. Which is why it's so easy to be confident about this kind of thing, right? I mean, I don't come on here on these videos and make every single I don't look at every single little thing and make a prediction about it, because I can't. When there's something I don't really know, I'll just kind of say it. But when there are things that look obvious, or when there are rules that look like they've kind of been fulfilled quite well, or whatever the case may be, it's quite easy to stand by that stuff. And the more of that you have, the easier your time as a trader will be, because you'll never really feel like you're making difficult decisions. Everything's just going to feel very intuitive and very natural to you. The weird thing about this is that it really is just a mindset shift, and basically nobody gets it. There are so many things that you can do in this market as a trader which would make you money, but most people, and they're just mindset shifts. They're just like push a button, think in a certain way, import a particular type of thinking into your brain, and then go. That's really how simple it works. Most people can't do it, right? And so this is a journey that takes months or years for a lot of traders to get to, but they are overnight fixes. And it's just a case of, for most people, it's like, when have you had enough, right? At what point have you had enough? You're not making as much money as you want to, or you're losing money, and you've had enough, and you want to start doing things properly. That's when really, really good things start to happen. We've actually had some traders at various different points along that journey come in, and we've got a huge offer for you guys with this link in the description, this direct contact link to me on Telegram. A lot of you guys have been hitting me up for this recently, for our super popular 12-week program. It is a super intense program. It really doesn't matter kind of where you are in your crypto journey, as long as you're kind of serious about what you're doing. We have whatever the investment fee is that people have paid. I've seen people save themselves from losing 50 times more, 100 times more than the investment that they paid for this program. It's not cheap. It's a serious program. It lasts 12 weeks. It's super in depth. It's going to require some real work on your part, but we're talking about astronomical differences in portfolios here, that I've seen personally. These are only the success stories that people have responded to me with, right? A lot of people, do well and don't really talk about it too much, which is completely understandable too. Honestly, I think I'd be one of those people, because life is busy, right? But reach out to me with this link if you're interested. We can get you set up nice and quickly. A lot of you guys have, like I said, and all of you have been responded to by either myself or my team. But super cool stuff there. Let's bring it back to Bitcoin, though, just for a second. We'll take a look at Bitcoin's dominance. Look at this. It's dipped down a little bit. Nothing crazy. This dip was enough for a little bit of upside in the altcoin market. But as we know by now, these altcoins are just in such a horrible, weak position. They're looking so bad, actually, that right now I'm actually curious about maybe making a series of videos about, for the altcoins that have kind of pardon me, for the altcoins that have kind of died. I want to make a series, SEI, Cardano, ARB, some others, maybe even Doge and Pepe, but others for sure like Phil or FTM. I want to make videos on each of them talking about if I think they can kind of get back up to their all-time highs, what would be necessary, what has been required in the past to achieve it, what has made coins kind of fall short of achieving it. And then based on that, kind of apply those checklists to each of these kind of coins and just, determine how likely it is to go up. Honestly, it's going to be quite unscientific. I'm going to make it as scientific as I can, but I mean, a lot of it is just going to be down to my interpretation, and I have such a negative interpretation of all of these coins that, it might not even be worth watching. But if that does sound interesting to you, and if you do want my, hyper-realistic, hyper-grounded, calm approach to each of these markets, then let me know in the comment section. Tell me that that's what you want to see, and I will bring that to life for you guys. But back to the charts here, a little bit of upside here for altcoins, stealing a little bit of the gains from Bitcoin, but really nothing big at all, and obviously still quite comfortably trending up here for Bitcoin's dominance. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. Like I said, I think we're poised to hit the top of this range. Now, whether we find resistance there or blast straight through it remains to be seen. I really think it could go either way. I have been hearing some kind of speculation that maybe we kind of do something a little bit like this and then kind of back down, or instead of kind of this support hit, we just kind of do something like this, but we still kind of come back down. I think this would be horrible. I think this would be like the worst form of this is teasing. This is just getting teased pretty hard at that point. It would be quite shit to live through. The reason I'm talking about it is because when I heard this, I was like, what the fuck? No, that's not going to happen. But then my next thought was actually, maybe that's exactly why it can happen. I mean, if I'm coming out of the gate and I'm like, that's just silly. I don't know. I think it's worth putting it on your radar. I don't think this is going to happen. I mean, you're talking about fading 7-8 months of trading. I understand that everybody is talking about it, right? Like, obviously, because of what happened last year, where we literally did the same thing. Last year was even worse. Everybody's forgetting, but last year was actually worse than what we're doing right now. But because of this and, just the obvious kind of uptrend that followed, everybody's talking about a breakout coming now. But I don't know. It's a kind of like jump in front of that and be like, yeah, but you're only going to marginally set an all-time high and then you're going to kind of come back down. To me, if you're saying that, it also means that you're saying that the S&P 500 probably isn't going to keep moving up. It also means that you're probably saying the dollar is going to keep moving up for a long time. A lot of other statements would have to be true for this scenario to be true, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I could just be horribly wrong about this, but that's how I feel about it. And I just don't see that stuff happening. I just think it's more believable that Bitcoin trends higher, S&P trends higher, dollar trends higher, election season happens. You know what I mean? It's just like we've seen it happen a million times, and to start acting like this time's different, for what? Like, for what reason is it? I don't know. Like, it just, the only reason I can imagine that this time is different is because whoever is speculating that this doesn't turn into a big breakout, those people are probably just burnt as fuck. Right, those people are probably being sidelined with a fucking $47,000 Bitcoin buy order that never filled. You know what I mean? And they they sold a little bit too low, they bought a little bit too high, they didn't buy enough. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like that seems more likely to me. I don't know. I'm going for probabilities here, right? That's all you got as traders. That's all you got. So I'm just saying. I mean, there are going to be people who are very accomplished who did play things well, who also have that opinion, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's not something that I'm particularly concerned about. However, on the downside, yeah, I mean, I think that if things wanted to kind of, because things have been slow lately, right, and that gives us comfort, and then bam, you get shocked. You get a big punch, and a lot of the time those punches are to the downside, right? So if that kind of punch is coming, it's like I said, I think 66, 67, really, really good support level, just ready to go for Bitcoin here, which I love it. That is the best thing I'm seeing on the chart. But failing that, you got a ton of support down here at 63. You got a ton of support down here. You even got support at like 64. There's so many mid-range support levels here. And there's a ton of support to back that. We didn't even finish talking about this, but the daily EMA ribbon, take a look at this right here, ladies and gents. The daily EMA ribbon now stretches from 63K, 63.1 to 65.3. I mean, this range stretches $2,200 now. It's a big EMA ribbon, and it's just right where Bitcoin could. I mean, if Bitcoin got a big dump into this range, right? Put it this way: if Bitcoin did basically something a little bit like this, you know, I mean, it would make so much sense that it kind of falls right into this kind of ribbon. You know, and then it just pulls off something a little bit more like this, right? I mean, you know, this would be really healthy for the market. You know, nobody would be upset by this. Would you be upset by this? Come on, of course you wouldn't. So, you know, I think if things start getting a little bit kind of aggressive in terms of dumping for Bitcoin, it's good. It's still in a good place. Look at the 𝐁𝐥𝐽𝐜𝐬 cloud. It's low. Don't get me wrong. It's low. But I mean, what a safety net though. For real. I mean, it's at such a beautiful price level. You know, and yeah, reasonably, if things do start kind of going south for Bitcoin, it would get there, you know, at some point in November, probably not this month. You know, and you got a ton of support waiting. So, you know, it doesn't matter what time frame you're looking at. There's support. There's only support below us, and we're breaking resistance. I mean, I don't know. Like, you tell me. What else does bullish mean? What else does it mean to be bullish? You know, if it's not breaking resistance levels, if it's not punching in higher lows, if it's not having a ton of support, but what the fuck else does being bullish mean? Like, how do you become bullish if you're not bullish yet? That's what I get it. I get that it doesn't feel right. This is really. I get that it doesn't feel right. I get that it doesn't feel nice to be. It doesn't feel nice to be bullish. It does not feel. You've been duped so many times in this market by the same bullshit in this market for 7-8 months, and last year also lasted 7 months. So it feels shit to be a bull right now. I get that. I get that much. But I'm a trader. And because I'm a trader, I have to view these things from a much more realistic, how am I going to make money lens, okay? And when I view it through that lens, I have to be very objective, right? Like, when I view it through that lens, it's no longer about my feelings, or it's no longer about the fact that it feels shit to be a bull right now. It's just about facts, okay? And the facts here are broken resistance levels, higher lows, higher highs, support indicators, multiple different indicators. You probably got some fib levels floating around, which we're not going to look at. We've passed the point of control on the chart, which we haven't even looked at on these charts because we don't need to, because it's so obvious. But we've passed the point of control. We've broken, you know, we've got support below us that we've already tested and validated. It's just looking great. And I'm just, you know, feelings are not enough for me to push this to the side. That's how I feel about it. So anyway, we'll see if things start to change. I'll update you as usual on this YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed this one, you know exactly what to do. Smash up those likes, double check that you're subscribed, and also tick that bell icon. And while you are down there, Bybit, if you start trading on Bybit, is going to give you up to 30k in free trading capital, and any profits you generate with that money are going to be yours to withdraw. That's really, really cool. You got to do is start trading on Bybit. Apex is their decentralized exchange. You get the same offers there. Really, really cool. And Blowfin's even more aggressive. Blowfin's a bit crazy. They're even more aggressive. And what's really cool about Blowfin is they're kind of just like Bybit. Blowfin and Bybit are very, very similar exchanges. They're kind of built on their own. They're not, you know, reliant on anybody else. They both got a ton of volume being traded on their exchange, which means that it's super liquid. You know, so you're not going to have any issues kind of getting in and out of the market, regardless of kind of position size. Typically, I mean, there's going to be exceptions on the edge cases, but for the most part, it's going to be fine. So well worth checking Blowfin out as well. And just, again, tons of bonuses when you start trading using that link. But as usual, always just be mindful of your laws in your country before you check out any of them platforms there. But yeah, pretty sweet stuff here, I think, overall in the market. We're going to come back to this with some more updates later on. This is obviously, you know, a kind of unusual time to be making a video. So I'll be back to kind of normal video times tomorrow. But yeah, I just kind of saw this pump and I was like, all right, we got to talk about this. So here we are. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.